Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Indiana Jones Retrospective Temple of Doom. I'm the shortest round, Travis Snail. I'm joined by.
I'm the monkey-brained Kirkland Patzer.
I'm brainwashed. Dilmas.
The Kalima Taylorfield.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can go back. We have reviewed patrons. You're getting a nice double header. Main feed, it was last week we reviewed the very first Indiana Jones one that kicked it all off. The classic Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Lawrence Kasdan, Harrison Ford combo. But here we are again because all those people are pretty much back for this, and we're talking about the sequel, but it's more prequel. It did come out after the Raiders, but it's technically takes place beforehand. George, I don't know if I put in my trivia, the reason he made prequel is he just didn't want Nazis to be the bad guys again, which is like, okay, very odd flex, but that's what he chose to do. So yeah, we're talking about the prequel sequel here today. As usual, you got these episodes earlier, ad free on Patreon. Go over there if you haven't, because July 31st we're trying to hit our goal of 50 patrons right now, and you'll unlock 6 episodes, the GV bingo card for everyone, not just yourself. If you join, you'll get them nice little early and stuff like that. But yeah, lots of episodes on there. Check out our Patreon. The link is down below, but you'll have a paragraph of what you can get there, all the 6 different episodes and stuff like that. And you get to support us, because the more you support us, more content and stuff like this we get to do. Taylor, where can they find things we do?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with the Internet Connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook.
Yes, everything you know is down below. Links, video, audio, Discord, all that good jazz. I'm going to start with Mr. Field on this one. Doom. You know, we talked about this in the first one.
Carl Urban, fucking fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, one of those. He watched that, yeah.
10-year-old Carl Urban.
Weird jump for Indiana Jones. He's not even in this movie. But yeah, what did you? Obviously, we talked about Indiana Jones. Like I feel like we kind of, if you have like a specific memory about the second one, you can't talk about that. But I feel like we kind of hit them all in the trilogies in the first one. So you can go back to that episode to find out what we thought as far as when we saw them and being kids and that type of being introduced to them and stuff. So like I said, if you have any specific memories, of course you can talk about that. If not, what do you think about this film?
This one specifically, I have it in such high regard like I do with that first one. I love this one so much. Short Round is a huge boost for me with this movie. I love that character a lot. I love the dynamic with Indy. I just feel like the chemistry between our trio of characters in this is really like wacky and wild, and I actually really enjoy how it is more like small, self-contained in terms of like a story narrative. I like how it feels like that classic indie at the start, but then it branches off and it just feels like, okay, that smaller contained storyline just with this dilemma that's unfolding in this specific area of the world. And I love it. I love it so much. It's just such a thrill ride, and there's so many just crazy moments, and yeah, just it's great. I really do enjoy it a lot. I don't know what else to say other than I really love it. And my earliest memories with this, like, it would be Raiders of the Lost Ark. I know I saw that one first, and this one when it came after the fact for sure. And just I didn't know going in when I would have watched it, like, oh, this is like a prequel sequel, kind of a weird thing that George Lucas did. But
Yeah, because it really could just be a sequel.
it could.
It feels very, again, not that they went that route, but very Bond-esque, where every movie he had a different female, side person with them. So I get that's one of the weirdest facts I ever learned, that when it was a prequel, it's like, but why? You know, it's just like him and Marianne are like together at the end, but they weren't married with kids. Like it's just such a weird, it's actually before anyone. It's like, cool. And some people think they did that just to make it so Harrison or like Indy wasn't with Marianne, and they like regretted that choice. But again, it's just like, I feel like they would have split off and she wouldn't have been like heartbroken about it either. But there you go.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Why, George? Why? But Dilmas.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too many specific memory. I think there's a couple scenes in this, of course, that stuck out, and like those were imprinted in my mind, even though I forgot about them until I was watching it back. But I gotta say, I was a lot cooler on this one. I think the set pieces, there's some good stuff there for sure, but I think the first one trumps it by far. And then I love Short Round. He's a lot of fun. I think Willie is a complete dud of a character. Like, just a 0 in terms of the ideas, the execution, all of it. All of it sucks, honestly, and it really dragged the movie down because she's in it a lot. So yeah, I was definitely a lot cooler on this one. I hope that I can climb back up for the third one here. But yeah, it's still decent. It's still solid. It's still like well made and all that stuff. I think if when I inevitably do some rewatches, I feel like I might just skip this one in the future. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next because I'm somebody that, I'll spoil a little bit of my rankings, but not exactly because, we got the fifth one coming out, so I'll shake everything up and stuff. But I'm somebody that, for years and years, and even doing for years and years, the original trilogy, I've always seen Temple of Doom ranked last on everyone's list. And I'm here to tell you, I'm much like Mr. Tarantino himself. I stand, and this is number one for me all day long, Temple of Doom. Now here's the thing. I can make the case I think Raiders is a better movie, but I just enjoy this one more. And I got some trivia about that. I like how darker it is. Like, it's very effed up in moments. I don't love Willie as a character, but I think that I do like the differences between some. It's tough. With Marianne, she's the better written character, everything like that. So I like that they kind of did go the opposite route. Is it more generic? Yes. But the comedy that Harrison Ford portrays with that character is what works with me, like the annoyance and stuff like that. We'll get to it, but the bedroom scene's one of my favorite dynamics. I love that. And Short Round is just, he's a character that I go, where was he for the rest of these? Why did they not bring him back for 3? Why they not, he's something that they should have known right away that, we should have just had him with a group all the time. So it's very strange that didn't happen. I know a lot of people hope he's going to appear in 5th. I don't think it's going to happen. That'd be fantastic. But it's just one of these that, man, Ke Huy Quan, he's just fire. And him and Harrison together are just, the chemistry's through the roof. And this is an era where kid actors were all pretty meh, they were not the greatest. You were lucky if you found someone that was just decent. Ke Huy Quan is at this age, obviously the guy just won an Oscar, but at this age, it's he's so charismatic and so lovable. So yeah, I love all the set pieces. I love how dark it is. I love the type of antagonist we're going up against. It is very voodoo witchcraft. So I kind of like that aspect of it. And yeah, I like the pacing where it feels with the first one, there is a lot of slow down times with a lot of the villains monologuing, talking. I feel we don't get that in this. I feel like there's just a lot of grip it and rip it, and we're going. It's actually, I think, a little longer than the first one because the first one's the shortest. But yeah, I love this movie, and I never understand, which we'll talk about it. But I hold Temple of Doom really high up there as it's my prime adventure movie out of the 4. That's if I could only pick one to go with, that this would be the one, so big fan of Temple of Doom. Excited to talk about some set pieces and moments from it. So Kirkland Patzer.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I really, really like this movie. I think back in the day, I always saw it as the lesser of the trilogy. It seemed like when I would start off hot with Raiders, and then this would just be a little, I don't even want to say cool down period, because there is still some spicy moments in it. And to your point, Travis, there is a lot of fucked up things that happen in this movie. I think also I was maybe a little scared of this movie. So going from Raiders, it ends really scary, and then headed into Temple of Doom. It's just really creepy concept. I think it's very claustrophobic at times too, especially when they're in the temple itself. I think the witch doctor, the voodoo witch doctor stuff, I've kind of ebbed and flowed with it, where I feel like initially I didn't understand it, and for that reason I just really liked it. And then the more I thought about just this controlling people, it was oh, okay, I like other concepts more, but and then I've kind of rethought that feeling, I guess. so I've liked it more nowadays. So yeah, it's interesting where I do go back and forth. I think I like Willie enough. She's definitely not up there comparing her to Marion just because it's a better written character, but I do like the comedy around her, especially the dynamic of her, Indy, and Short Round. I just really like that trio for this movie. I feel like if that was a reoccurring trio, maybe I would have been annoyed with, because there is a lot of moments when Willie is just very annoying and obnoxious, but I feel like that's what she's supposed to be. She is just kind of this bratty character that just does not want to be there, and it's just so inconvenient for her to be there. Kind of snobby at parts, but yeah, I don't know. I think there is still a lot of good moments in here. And yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about specifics. And I feel like my overall rankings for the indie movies has kind of gone all over the place throughout the years. Like I'll do a rewatch of the trilogy and like it'll just be a completely different order than it was beforehand. And I think that just speaks to the quality overall of the movies, and kind of how I'm feeling after that particular rewatch. Because even on this previous like rewatch, I've kind of shifted my rankings nowadays. So it's crazy how many times I've seen them and how many times that does happen. Because I don't know, like the adventures are very grand, maybe some more than others, but they're just really epic adventures, and maybe it's depending on how I'm feeling in those on that particular day.
Yeah, and they're all a little bit different, right? The first one's a big adventure film. This one is a little more darker. The third one is a bit more family oriented and stuff like that. Not like saying it's like G rated. No, just in the sense of it's more of that's what the story's focusing on. So and fourth is the fourth, whatever it is. So, but yeah, we're good. And hopefully fifth is something. Well, fifth, we know what that is. That's the one last ride story, right? Like
That's what I thought the fourth one was.
Yeah, it's funny you think that when you watch the movie, it's like they don't portray this at all like it's the one last ride. It's just him being indie, even
He's
though
not
he's 60.
dead yet, so.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, when we get to Dial Destiny, like he's not dead yet. You know, he could.
Could squeeze out another movie.
No, I don't. I if they're teasing this as the final one last ride, because they did that with 8 a little bit, but it was more almost like the one more time. But this is like the one last time, so can't. I'm not saying he has to die. We'll talk about maybe in a predictions cast, but I feel like you have to like close the book on Indy, like to show okay, he's done, you know. So
It's the mileage.
Yeah, I don't know if I want. Yeah, it's my mileage just ran out. Yeah, because I don't know if there's like there's certain characters. I don't know if I want to see Indiana Jones die. You know, there's something about that. But I guess and nowadays that's the big thing, right? You got to kill them off, Bond, Logan, like to ensure, hey, they're never gonna come back. They'll just do the No Time to Die scene and they'll literally show Harrison Ford get blown up, it's just to ensure never coming
The
back.
bunny with the little bunny on him.
Yeah, with the little bunny, yeah. But yeah, let's get into this. So we open up the movie, and this is where, and maybe this was also why the aesthetic is maybe why it's my favorite, is this to me feels out of the four the most like Steven Spielberg's trying to do a Bond movie. Because the first 20 minutes of this movie is a Bond movie. The music number, the Bond girl, the suit, yeah, the meeting with the bosses. It gets into a shootout, which I love. There's one great scene when he gets to that, like there's something it's like something hanging from the wall and he's doing like this like trying to get this knife and he's getting shot at, like it's just classic indie stuff, and he hits this big metal plate and he jumps down, and then as he's rolling it,
the giant gong.
Yeah, the gong, yeah, and there's this great shot when he's rolling it and they have the machine guns and it's just like like you see all the bullets. It's like, so I ate up the entire set piece of this. Again, like it makes sense why he said he wanted to do a Bond film. This is kind of like that. To me, this was all Bond, but I liked the dynamic, and I really like the back and forth when they're dealing with the diamonds and the money, that spinning table of like exchanging things, and he has the knife on Willie. So the opening of the film, that gets me right into it. It feels like a little bit different. Now, I don't think I prefer it more than what we talked about the first one. I love that the cave, you know, trotting and the looking for treasure. I still take that all day. But I like this as it does, like kind of what Taylor shows. It does set it aside, like you're gonna be doing a little bit different, because there's I guess like he's after treasure in this, but that doesn't feel exactly. It's a bit more domesticated, but in a not a domestic world, you know, and stuff like that. But yeah. I like the opening.
Well, the this is where it kind of ties into Last Jedi, does it not? Where you have like the red like plume on his, you know, the high stakes table. Isn't that the whole thing? Like in Canto Bight, that kind
of, is that the thing?
Because that's what Harrison Ford's dressed as too, right? He's dressed as like the white like
that makes sense. The club's also called the Obi-Wan, so yeah. And if I can't remember which, is it Kingdom Crystal Skull where there's C-3PO and R2? They're like in like the etchings and stuff.
Oh, maybe it is. I thought it was Raiders or something.
Yeah, they both have a lot of like Easter eggs to one another and stuff. But yeah, no, now that you say that, that makes sense with the Last Jedi thing. He is wearing the same thing Justin Theroux is. So there you go. Lots of Star Wars-isms happening.
Yeah. I love the opening to this movie. I just love the aesthetic. I love the music. I love the colors of the outfits. Like Willie's dress is really just pretty and intricate. But as well as just so many other people there, like it's just this high roller type bar or whatever you would call it, with like the live performer and dancers, and like there's a moment when you just see like, I don't even know, like it's over 50 just like stage dancers just like going off, and it's just so elaborate, and like again, like with how many moving pieces are on there, it's just like, man, like this is cinema. Like it's not some wild CGI opening that maybe I've seen in the past here nowadays. It's just like how many moving pieces are in just this intro of performing Anything Goes, and it's just such a catchy song, and yeah, just very different overall aesthetic to what the first movie had, but still a really, really good opening in my eyes. So just, I don't know, they do a really good job at just setting up the adventure that's about to ensue. And yeah, just I like seeing our James Bond type indie here with just phenomenal confidence. Like he's this nerdy history professor or archaeologist, but in here he's just like, just not backing down to this big crime boss, and just like ready to basically get shot to get his diamond. And yeah, just shows some more sides to Indy, the character there, and really, really good opening.
Great Dovin at the end too, when he gets in the plane and he's like, "Oh, it was great speaking,"
Yeah.
and he closes the plane and it's like his name on it. It's just such
That was good.
such a fun, just like screw you sort of moment. But then the villain smiles; he gets a good kick out of it because it's not going to go Indy's way. But
Yeah.
I don't think I have much to add. Just the song choice as well. Yeah, Anything Goes. I'm just so nostalgic for any song that's in Fallout, like Fallout 3 and 4 and stuff like that. And this is one of those classic ones. And I love too that after, because there's a musical number when it's that song, but then they also use kind of like the themes and some of the like melodies of that song in just the score during the action sequence too. Just like hitting some like, sometimes 3 or 4 notes in a row of like calling back to that. So just, once again, all the score in these things are so well done, the way it's layered throughout. So yeah, I like the music choice there.
dumb question: is it confirmed? Is Williams scoring this newest one? Because I know for a while he's talking about retiring. Is that happening?
I'll take a look.
Okay.
Can't remember seeing anything.
Yeah. Taylor,
I guess is no.
I don't remember seeing anything.
Because I thought he said it was saying for Rise of Skywalker that was going to be his last like full thing, but maybe he's doing one of those fake like. But he also had health issues too, so that's why I wasn't sure if he's actually still doing it or maybe Indy's
Music
going
by
to be.
John Williams on IMDb.
Okay. There you go.
Damn.
Good.
If Ford is there, Williams is there.
One last ride.
That's his
One last
MO,
ride.
maybe.
Yeah. What do you think today about this opening?
I love the opening. It just is so. It just turns high octane. I love how it turns into this like, I want to say like kooky kind of thing, just in trying to get like the anti.
Oh yeah,
thing. Like,
I
it's just
love
so
the. And you
rowdy.
just
It's
drink the poison.
Yeah, it's just
What's
like
this then?
it's
Yeah.
kicking around like and stuff. Like it's just, I don't know. It's humorous, but it feels like it's life or death in this situation here. And yeah, I love it, and just how it goes. Yeah, it just goes absolutely chaotic, and we got like Short Round introduced here, and like you don't even question why this kid is with this grown adult doing the life-threatening adventures here. Like, where's this kid's parents? Doesn't matter. You just
I
think,
always
okay,
question.
this
I
is
don't
funny.
question it, but I always want to know like how did
Ben's
this
a teacher,
happen?
and he's got this random child with him.
He's just everything when they get in that car, like, you have a child driving, and they cut to his
I
feet,
love
and he has
that.
like all the wood tied around his feet, and then Willie has the antidote on her, and it's like in her blouse or whatever, and then he's like reaching down, and he's just like, "Dr. Jones, it's no time for love," and then and he's just like, and of course Willie, same thing, like pushing off, like no one has any idea of like she has the antidote, and he's just trying to get it before he croaks and stuff. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys catch like I had to rewind it because I forgot about this every time. Why does he punch that waitress? There's a waitress that he punches in the scene, and I never know why. And at first I thought it was that, oh, he's going to take a swing at a guy. Someone pull up. Someone put opening of Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. Someone pull it up because I have to, because I'm trying to figure out why it happens. I rewound. I was like, I don't understand why he just cold clocks this woman, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they're trying to see like if that's like the poison going on, but anyway, someone can pull up. Just I want to show it for like I couldn't figure it out, but yeah, no, like I said, my opening, I think it's this movie to me too, it's if Short Round's not in it, then I don't get as much enjoyment out of it. And maybe some of that is to that dynamic of why I like it so much. I think more for me it is the dark stuff, but every scene that he is in, he just livens up the room. I do think he has, like, it's a good chemistry. I think he has good chemistry with Willie. I think where they really sell in one of my favorite scenes, because it's dark and it's comedic, and what I love is it's Indy. He's trying to get information about all this stuff. It's the dinner scene, and he and the guy are deadly serious. But then off to the side, you have Willie and Short Round like reacting all this very grotesque food. Like, man, when they bring out that snake and they cut it so like the baby snake's out. Oh my god! Like, everyone knows, like, that's the most thing I share with Indiana Jones. I fucking hate snakes. So that, oh my god, it's just that whole scene is just very gross and stomach turning. I love when they get the soup and then the eyeballs pop out. And again, all of Ke Kwan's like facial reactions in that dinner scene, fantastic stuff. So that's not my favorite scene, but I really love that dinner scene. So
I love when they're playing cards too. That was a very fun little scene where they're both like kind of being tricksters, and he's like kind of just fed up with him. He's like, I'm not playing anymore. But yeah, I agree. He's so much fun. He definitely rose it up, and then Willie brought it down. So I think I ended up somewhere in the middle, unfortunately, because of all the just how much of both of them there are in there. But yeah, it's crazy that he's like, wow, that's a little Oscar winner right there. You know, someday, many years from now, he's gonna win an Oscar. So it was pretty cool to see him in this, because yeah, he was an element of this movie that I totally forgot. Which you would think that since I watched this as a kid, that I might remember an iconic kid or something like that. But it was a nice, pleasant surprise going back to it.
well, let's take our first ad break, and then maybe Kirkland has a scene to bring up. So we'll be right back. We're back. So do you have the scene, Kirkland?
I have the opening scene. I couldn't find the the waitress that you were talking about yet. Is it like when chaos is going on that he's trying to find the antidote? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the clip that I found ends like right before that, but I got reminded of the moment when they're telling him that he's poisoned. I completely forgot that he just grabs like the flaming blade, and like the crime boss and his homies are just like laughing out loud, like hysterically, that Indy's just like getting poisoned. And Indy just like javelins this flaming sword at one of the buddies, and he's like mid laugh gets stabbed, and then just like still is laughing like he's an animatronic, and just like shoots someone randomly. Oh, I forgot how just ridiculous that moment was, but I'll keep looking for your waitress here.
Taylor, where were you on Willie? Because you're a Marion fan. Where were you? Because I'm somebody that like I like it enough for her. I like her being an annoying character. Sometimes that doesn't work for me. It was a pro for Dylan. Wasn't. Where were you falling, Willie? Because honestly, too, Willie has brought up a lot as people not being too big a fan of it. Like, it's a very mixed point. Even Kate Capshaw, you know, Spielberg's wife, has said, yeah, it's just a dumb blonde character and stuff like that. But
I thought her humor worked for me. I love just you're in these situations where it's life and death. It's very serious. You know, you and Short Round are in this hidden room that was in the castle, and you're now dealing with like crushing walls, all that stuff, and you just had to deal with this girl like Indy. There's a lot of bugs. She's just screaming, and Dr. Jones is like, I'm paraphrasing, but get the fuck in here, like just. You gotta save us right now, and I just think that there's a lot of humor behind that. So
she's taking her sweet time and everything.
Taking her sweet time, yeah. But again, like I like that her development just kind of like sets her up, like to kind of like, I don't know, like she comes out of her shell a little bit of just not being like but just kind of like embracing where she is at the end, and just kind of like really having appreciated the adventure and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think that's it's kind of a cool development for her character.
One adventure though, because as she says, this movie, she's done. She's moving back to Mississippi, and it's over for her.
Honestly, a good call for like her life expectancy.
Yeah, she's put in a lot of situations,
she was close to the lava in this one, so
yeah, like. I'm kind of torn because I love the heart rip and that reveal all the magic, but for me, my favorite sequence in this movie is the double of, I like everything from when they break off in the bedroom, when they wait for the 5 minutes. I like them both checking the clock, and man, I love when he gets attacked and she's like, ragging him out like, oh, this could have been the night of your life. She goes back, and then when he comes back in the room, it's that classic like mix up humor. He's like looking around, and she's like getting all excited because he looks like all hot and bothered, and he's like looking under the bed, and she's like, no, I'm right here. And then when he starts to fill out the statue, and she's just like, can you believe this fucking guy? Like, I'm right here, and now he's touching the statue. But what I really like is when they get to that room, and Short Round just being, this is like the perfect kid, like, don't touch anything. First thing he pulls this trigger, the dead guys, he steps on the thing that makes the wall go, or he steps on something, he goes back again because Indy says, just get against the wall. And he does listen to Indy, and that causes the trap. You got the bugs, and I love just the cinematography at one point when they get those spikes so down, and it's like right on, it's like squishing his hat, and it's like lopsiding it, and everything when Willie gets in there, and she looks at the hole, and they do like that fake jump scare, like a hand comes out and grabs her, but it's just Indy, and he's like, we're gonna die in here if you don't do anything, and then same thing, she's like, okay, he's like, in the lever, okay, and she looks down this hole, and then she just sees anything, not this one, like, it's just like that scene really works. And then when they get back in there and she backs up and her ass hits the button again, and he's just like, oh my god, like that for me is one of the funniest, but also it's just like the claustrophobia of it. I love the way they shoot the spike room scene. You just feel that angst going on. The bugs is great. So yeah, the apartment to the spike room, that's my favorite sequence, one of them in the whole franchise, but for this movie in particular, lots of fun humor in there for me. So
Yeah, I agree. I love the confusion in that moment of them just her thinking that he's thinking one thing, but really he's trying to save both their lives. It's very comedic yet chaotic, and there is stakes like in that moment, especially when the trap's coming down, because like it gets really freaking close to just completely murdering Short Round and Indy, and then they finally get away from it. And then they just like they activate it again, and no one there or no one is on the other side to save them in that instance. So it's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So it's just a really, really good balance of all those situations of just the comedy, the dire straits, and it was good stuff.
And the hat falls, yes, get the hat.
Of course.
Can't let the hat go,
2 for 2, right? One in each movie so far.
Exactly. Where else? Where we want to go to next?
I guess another big set piece is the plane. The plane runs out of fuel, and then they end up in the life raft, and that's flying down the mountain in a big way. And I don't know if it's supposed to be a callback to the first movie when the car flies off the cliff, and it's just like this incredibly long shot of the car falling, but doing the same thing with the boat. And man, the whole time I was just like, man, the physics on this for that to work, like how much it's tipping at some points. I feel like it's like almost flipped 90 degrees, and they're like about to pop out and all that stuff. That's very satisfying. I don't know what they did to. I don't know if they just threw one of those off a cliff and filmed it or something, but it just looks great. Like it's perfect the way that goes, and it's just very over the top and goofy. And I think that kind of set the tone a bit for me in terms of what this movie is in general compared to that first one. That was a fun little travel sequence, and then I like they don't even know where they are at that point either. Like they walk around for a bit, and some guy just pops up. Like, I guess we're in India. Like now just the rest of the plot is in this one sequence. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, no, I every time you think it's over, it's not, and then eventually you get the water and stuff like that. But it's a good sequence. And so, that's one of the good lines I like too, when they sit down and he's at the whatever the controls, and he's like tapping everything. He's like, "Hey, oil, this and that." She's like, "Do you know how to fly?" And he's like, "No, do you?" But he asks it in like a genuine way, like, "Do you actually fly?" And she's like, "Okay," and then they go back to it. So I had some fun there.
It's the free fall in the raft is like comedically long in my eyes. I feel like I never really questioned it, but now that's something when I rewatch it, it's just like, man, that is a long fall in that raft, and it is multiple falls. Thankfully, they're able to stay upright, get enough wind resistance, I guess, to not take too much fall damage. But it still seems like they fucking hit the ground very hard when they do end up colliding with some snowy ground.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, so Kirkland, what is have you gone over your fears now of what you were a kid? Because probably was it all just the voodoo stuff at the end, heart ripping and everything like that?
Like for what freaked me out in this.
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah.
you're asking? Yeah, I think it is just like that occult thing. Like when they go down there and it's just like the brainwashed people just like all chanting like in the cave, and it's also just like it is just a very dark thing. Like they're worshiping this demon entity or whatever it is, and again, like the claustrophobia type aspect of like they're deep in that temple. Like they can't just run to an emergency exit and get out of there, and then they're in the streets of New York. You know, they're safe and sound. Like they are in a foreign country in this like castle or kingdom that like it's like a monarch type situation. So like everybody there, even if they weren't brainwashed, are working for the people that are running the show. But then like to make it even more extreme, they're in like the deep dark crevice of this thing. So they're just, it's like they're in they're in Doom and they're on Mars. Like they're so far away from.
It looks like hell pretty much down there.
Yeah.
I love the red aesthetic of all the
Oh,
times
yeah.
those characters are lit by it. That's all sometimes the only lighting going on. I love that whole set piece down there.
100%. And like to Taylor's name, like the Kali Ma sequence, that is like forever ingrained in my memory. I think that's something maybe I saw a little bit too young the first time. Just the guy getting his fucking heart ripped out, and then just like a pit to hell essentially just opens up, and like it's not really explained like what that actually is, but it's just like as a kid seeing that for the first time, it's like holy fuck, this is. Probably didn't say that, but this is
Holy
insane.
fuck, Dad! What's going on?
Yeah.
And the fact that they rip his heart out, it heals, and then he goes back down. Again, Indiana Jones doesn't believe in magic, but like, and then the heart goes on fire and stuff like that. It's such a messed up. Because if you look at like the first one, like the face melting's probably as dark as it gets, but then the rest of the film's not that way. But it is just, and it's not even like, again, it's not like the face melting thing where it's one thing very dark. Just the whole sequence. Like at one point they have Indy like punch short round, like, and I could see a few people really like the fun loving Indiana Jones. I feel like the back half gets a little away from that. Even Spielberg wasn't a fan of doing that. He didn't want to get as dark. That's why he actually tried to add in some comedy along the way to George's script, because that's where they kind of butted heads on this one. That George, they cited it that they were both in a darker place because of breakups, and then they wanted to write a darker script, and then they kind of did, and then soon got it and was kind of like, yeah, it's a little too dark, so I'm gonna add.
This is
I got
fucked
some
up,
notes.
George.
yeah. Your breakup went worse than mine, especially because Spielberg like meets his wife on this set, so it's like, yeah, it worked out for him. But yeah, it's I love all that type of stuff. I love the aesthetic. I love all the other characters, and the idea of like when you're watching, it's like I didn't see it as a kid, but I think it's great that you have short round, then you establish like you have these like the Maharaja, but also just these like child slaves that are put in there. And I kind of forgot about that too at the beginning of the movie when they're talking to the townspeople about like this thing came and took the children and stuff like that. I kind of forget, like, right, these are the kids that belong to that village and stuff like that. So it's like a very good, I think, weaving of the story that these kids could just be gone or of myth or legend, but you do find them and they do get a happy ending. I'm sure maybe some didn't make it, but they do make sure that, you know, Indy busts them all out. So
I hope 100% of them made it out, but
well,
those
that was my
working
first thing I thought.
conditions are not ideal.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought. I'm like, man, he got all those kids, as I'm explaining to Gwen and Logan, but I'm like, man, there's gonna be a couple of parents that are still probably sad because like I didn't say that to them, but I'm just like, there's no way. But yeah, even that, it's like you got the supernatural horror stuff that's bad, but then just the kid slavery stuff is like, oh my god, like George was in a dark place.
It's funny because like I feel like as a kid it was like the ripping out the heart and like the pit to hell, that's what really scared me. And then as I'm an adult, that doesn't scare me as so much more, as opposed to like just the child slaves and the cellars there. It's just it is very dark.
The whole Kali Ma guy, the priest guy, like that whole first sequence when he does the heart removal, he's got this like smile grimace thing, like he's just soaking this in. He loves what he's doing, and yeah, it's just absolutely terrifying. And I feel like once things kind of like calm down, like Indy exposed himself, like I wouldn't go out to that whole like area where they just expose, but like he goes out to like where they were kind of like hanging around and stuff. I just feel like it's just so.
Like where the stones are?
Yeah, like just wait a half an hour.
Oh yeah,
wait
he's on front stage, and even then, like I
the
get
second
that.
showing's is about to start. Come on.
Yeah, and he's just like they're like not even quickly grab them, like, yeah, this is right. Like, you know, I just saw them lit up like this. I think this is the stone, and even then, like, I get it because it doesn't matter. Willie and Short Round get kidnapped. No matter what, he's gonna get kidnapped. But I love that at one point he's looking at this child labor and he sees this one kid getting like beat up. Well, he just takes a rock and just like chucks at the guy to stop it. And then when they all turn, he's like he almost like immediately regrets what he did because it's like, well, I can't get out of here. But I love like again another good guy indie moment where like he can't help himself. He has to like just stop this kid from getting beat up, even though this is going to ensure that you are not getting out of here. Even if Willie and Short Round didn't get kidnapped, if you hit this guy randomly with a rock, you've guaranteed you're dead to rights. And they brainwash him. They make this poor little Indiana Jones voodoo doll and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I guess I want to talk more about that voodoo doll. That sequence it's kind of skipping ahead of it, but with the conveyor belt, which is it just feels like one of those like kind of classic, almost generic set pieces, but it still is fun because I feel like just once again logistics of that make no sense for how long it goes on.
No,
for. And even
there's
the
so
amount of times when it's like at the end of it when he's about to get crushed and they cut back and forth so many times. I'm like, this is not adding up here. This is something weird going on in the editing bay of it. And I think this part feels, I mean, it's already very cheesy, but it feels especially cheesy because that kid actor, you know, he's no Kei Kwan. Like he's up there and he's like doing this little cheesy little face as he's stabbing the voodoo doll. I was like, yeah, this guy's not so great. But I like that Short Round saves the day there, and I like that he does it in a way that they just like bond a little bit because they're both kids, and I don't know, it almost has like a lighthearted tone to it, and you kind of know what's going to happen in that sequence at the end, of course. But yeah, that was fun. I feel like it kind of plays very similarly to the plane propeller whatnot from the first movie. So even probably like if you look at the hour count, it probably is in a very similar spot in this movie as that is in Raiders. So that was kind of felt like a bit of a callback in a way too. So I like that set piece.
and even when they have like the bad guy, the stunt guy, like get like rolled up in it, it's like they look at it like they shoot it as like it's a belt and then it's just the crusher there. But then when he goes in it, there's like a part where it can actually go down. It's like he's getting crushed like downward. So of course it's all for the safety of the actors and stuff. But no, I agree with you, Dylan. I was watching that tonight. It's like how many shots they have of Indy. Like there's one where like he's right there close, he's looking up, and they use that like 3 times where he's like a little bit closer, but it's like you know, he'd definitely be crushed by now. But they have some fun in that mine and doing a lot of like set pieces of like Short Round, man, he kicks some ass. He's throwing some like some spinning round kicks and stuff like that to the adults. Like, man, he's ready to go there. And then I do like when all the kids break out and it's just like a classic. They're throwing rocks, tripping them with chains and stuff like that. So there's some good stuff in there.
Like a bunch of Ewoks or something.
Pretty much. They got a very similar.
They got the little horn.
Yeah, they got a very similar move set and stuff like that. And the other sequence I actually really like is when they get there, they have like a very cheesy moment where there's like, so the water, of course, it breaks. That's all great because it takes out the bad guy's lair and stuff like that. But they're running down whatever the mines, and they go and like there's like a little thing to the right that they go there, they go down, and the water comes back. Even though logistically it doesn't make any sense, like the water would still come through that little hole there. But that's fine. I can suspend my disbelief. They get there, and you get the train track of them in like the little, what is that thing called in the
Minecart.
It's just a minecart. Okay, really like that. That's tons of fun. That's like just Aikens back to like I feel like every video game developer that's done that, I feel like they looked at this like I gotta do that. But the other highlight piece for me is I really like the bridge set piece. I like the stare off. I like that, and he gives them the go ahead like what's gonna happen. I love the crocodiles. Like clearly they've just thrown some clothes in there and they're just shooting the crocodiles. Just roll around with clothes. Like they don't look like they're eating anything. But I love the the chopping of it, the breaking, everything falling, and at one point they just have this gorgeous shot of. It's the bridge. Indy's on it with a sword up. They have the bad guys. They have the 2 opposing sides. Just some fun set pieces outdoor there. And I think it's a fun, fitting conclusion. Even though the bad guys are really thrown off that Indy's going to chop the bridge, even though the whole time he's looking like that's all he's going to do is. I get what they're saying. Like he was getting ready to
What's
fight.
he trying
but
to do?
He literally is just
Why is
looking
he
at the
wrapping up his
rope.
arm?
Yeah, like it's the most obvious thing in the world, but I still buy it because like okay, these guys are a little cuckoo, but a fun finale nonetheless. And Indy gets again, just like the first movie with Ark, he shows that like his studies have shown like saying this again, the rocks to melt kind of makes the other guys screw up and stuff. So again, he kind of uses his brain instead of his brawn. So I like that.
Yeah, I really like that ending too. I like just the happy nature of it, of all the kids returning to the village, them all kind of having that hero moment with him at the end. It's just very satisfying end to this chapter in Indy's tales. But getting back to the bridge scene, that's one that like I feel like it just stuck with me so much as a little kid, because I'd always seen like alligators or crocodiles as like this threat in the waters, probably in like cartoons and stuff. They're just really relevant in those situations. You got the mean alligator in the water that you got to avoid. But this was, I feel like, the first time that I actually saw them like live action. And yeah, to your point, Travis, they just like toss clothes in there. It doesn't look like real
Yeah.
person that they're eating.
You hear
But just
screams in their
but just
bed.
like having those close-ups of like the death rolls and shit, it's like, oh my god, like that is like you're not getting out of that. Like that was the first time it like clicked for me, seeing like a live action just death roll on a crocodile. It's like, wow, those things are dangerous, and just put a little bit of fear in my mind about those guys.
I love that the bad guy, when they're hanging from the bridge after it's been chopped, and he's like, "Oh, you know what's a great time for me to go for my fucking heart move right now? Like this, this feels like I have time to go for this very specific move." When he's like barely hanging on, but he's like gonna do all his strength, and of course,
The
Indy
bold
for like
play.
30 seconds even is just like standing there taking, I guess, he's pumping him with some magic at that point, so maybe it like sedates him a bit or something like that, but really it's just goofy and cheesy. But I love that. And like the shit-eating grin he has at that point too, and he's like, "Oh, I got you now." And
Yeah, you're done.
gonna eat your heart. And then going back to the water, to me it was funny watching that, because like, man, the green screen on that is just atrocious. Like, it does not hold up, where you
Yeah,
see
it's
them
tough
like
at times,
scaling
yeah.
the rocks and stuff like that, but none of like where their body parts line up with anything. And that's like, it's cool that so much of these movies do hold up and look great still, that when there is something that looks off, yeah, like there's only really a couple of them here or there. But yeah, everything with that sequence, I feel like it's maybe a bit too like, I feel like there's no really reprieve. I feel like once you get into the Temple of Doom, it's like, man, we're gonna go for like an hour and a half straight of just like action, action with very
Yeah.
little time in between. It definitely stood out to me a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, again, different with that first one, right? Because even when Indy gets kidnapped, before they even open the arc, there's some downtime, there's some talking, there's the build up to it. But even then, there's not build up of like they come from the death spike room and they walk down to the Temple of Doom, and then right away it's like, even if it's not action, it's still a dude ripping another guy's heart out. So it's like, it is kind of like a cool down of like, you're getting some exposition, you're seeing this ritual, because the ritual's so intense, it feels like an action set piece, and like the guy's getting dropped in lava. Like, it's not a
Well,
hey, we're gonna just chat a bit.
yeah, in a way, I feel like the conveyor belt to minecart to water to bridge, like all of that's like in 20 minutes, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like there's multiple, like, even after that minecart sequence, you don't even really need the water. Like, that felt like, okay, that was good. It got the blood pumping. Now it's cooled down a bit. But then like it keeps going. And then when we pop out, I'm like, okay, I guess this is probably a little bit of a reprieve, or maybe even like, really rolling into the conclusion. But then you get like this whole bridge sequence after that. So it's maybe a bit much on the intensity side of things, but all of those sequences individually are pretty fun, at least.
What about you, Taylor? You haven't spoken about too much of the Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I honestly, when we get to that whole breach sequence, yeah, you said it, the clothes and stuff in the water, that's laughable, but it's that cheesy kind of humor that I well, not even necessarily like it's humor, but it's cheesy enough and corny enough that I like it. It just kind of fits for me. But I love when it's like dead to rights. Indy's trapped on the bridge, and there's like, both sides it's not looking good for him, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, the guards just, I guess like the British, they swoop in there, or not the British.
Not the British, no.
No, I don't know why I thought the British. Yeah, just guys with guns.
British are here.
Guys with guns show up and save the day. So that's good. But
Gwen's assessment was, guns are better than arrows, hey? And then I had to say, well,
In that
depends who's
situation.
shooting them. Yeah, but I said it depends who's shooting them, if they're not trained. But yeah, that's what she took away from the scene.
I think everything, like, again, leading before with the Temple of Doom and stuff with the stones, and like you mentioned, like just like putting the guys in the cage, going down to the lava and everything like that, just a heck of a fucking construction site, because like you got like these huge concrete slabs and stuff. It's just such a Like I'd hate to be the kids had to probably build that shit, which is just fucking.
Oh, yeah.
horrendous. Yeah. So I
What
can't
working conditions? You're building this, not getting fed, and then every day you got some guy being like, "Got him out!" Like he's like ripping this heart out. So you can't say anything. You're not gonna try it. No, none of these kids. Like Short Round's brave because he's been around indie, but none of these kids are gonna try and escape when you got like the heart ripping guy around. You know?
And the whippers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna
Yeah,
happen. So
jeez. Once we get into those minecarts, I really love that too. It's so high octane here, and it's like 1 to 100. I just love how accelerated this is going, and just everything on those tracks. And I, I just think that it's such a vibrant, fun adventure. This one compared to and I can't say compared to the last one because like I put this one in high regard compared to that last one. So again, like both these are very much like one of my favorites. But yeah, everything that we just kind of like focus on where Indy turns bad and he's like possessed. It's like, holy shit. Like, yeah, that in its own is terrifying. Cause like we had a whole movie where he's the good guy and we were just rooting for him. And now here we are. He's with Short Round and he's doing everything like classic Indy. And now all of a sudden he's been Kali Mad. He's not playing ball with us anymore. And it's like, shit, this is like our main guy here. And yeah, yeah.
For some reason, I always think when I watch it back for the first few minutes, because I know it kind of happens, I'm like, oh, he's faking it. But then he's actually not faking it for a while. Like he's possessed, and then I guess just fire snaps you out of it, you know.
I thought that as well. I definitely thought he was faking it.
Yep, I know.
Yeah.
You know.
Where to next? Anything else to specifically shout out scenes or character moments we haven't talked about yet?
I will shout out just quickly the rocks popping up in Ander.
The Rock was popping up in Doom.
Yeah, and Doom. Yeah, the rocks popping back up in Star Wars. So again, you get more of that cross reference stuff there, which is
Wait,
cool.
what? Sorry, can you explain that?
The stones, they put them in the Star Wars Andor show.
Andor.
What they're doing?
Yeah, you're sounding
In the
like
background
fucking
somewhere.
They're in the background of a store.
Gas and
yeah,
Ander.
a Star Wars store.
Nice. That's
Do you
cool.
say what do you say? A Star Wars store? What?
Yeah, the Star Wars store.
Okay.
Skarsgård. It's not Bill.
The official Star Wars store in it.
I thought you were trying to say a Star Wars story again. I'm like, it's not just called. First of all, it's not called Ander, a Star Wars story. Like you're messing Dylan up big time.
The Han Solo movie is just story. Yeah, you want to watch Story this weekend? Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The prequel element, I didn't realize that until you mentioned it at the start of this. Is that said anywhere in the movie? Like how, or is it just like knowing that from like interviews and stuff that he's said that is the case?
I was gonna say you could probably check the dates because in here it does say 1935 at one point, and then I think in the last one it's like
it's 36.
36.
Yeah, so
there you
this is technically a year. So I guess it's the time that him and Marion haven't been together. But yeah, I think that's all it comes down to somewhere it does say date wise that it takes place before. So and that's really it. There's no other reason.
That's so weird.
Yeah,
That's
and
so
like even then when he's like, "Oh, I don't want him not to fight the Nazis again," it's like. So just put him here during 19 like this.
Yeah, he
it's
goes
not,
all over the world. Like the Nazis are not on every single, and not in every single country.
It's like a 1936 in India everywhere. You're gonna bump into a Nazi, but like it's just kind of too. It's like the cult and the villain you make for this movie are a voodoo guy. You know, they're not tied to. Well, you know, we can only do like the Nazis. You can do them in a certain time period, right? A voodoo guy you could do now in 2023. You could do in 1930. Like a voodoo guy is a voodoo guy. It doesn't have to be. So it's a weird thing, but you know, George. That's all it says when you hear George Lucas' idea. You're like, okay, I understand it now.
He loves a good prequel, I guess. That's it tracks. Yeah.
This is the only great prequel he's done. You know. Which other ones?
Yeah, you saying
Revenge of
this
the
is
Sith?
great? Is that what?
No, I don't have any of that. That's not tracking there, Taylor.
Here you go, Travis. I found your waitress puncher
Yes, thank you.
sequence.
So I don't know.
It's kind of
he's
confusing.
magical.
Yeah.
And then watch, he kicks that. He gets
wild.
punched, and then
I think he's just like recognizing like the black attire as
I
workers,
guess,
so he's
but
assuming that they work
Yeah,
there.
you're right though. It is pretty weird.
it doesn't make any sense because when I saw it the first time,
Is
I
he
was like,
slipping and accidentally punching?
okay, go back, because
Pull it
I just want to know why does he just go for the KO punch on this lady?
I feel like he might be slipping.
Okay, so he's going back.
No, he's not
He
slipping.
plants his feet. He plants his
He
feet.
plants for that
I
punch.
don't know if that's a slip, but yeah, because that's why same thing done. I thought, did he slip or was there a guy there he went to go punch? But no, it's just like he stops. He's just, but maybe I think the idea is he's just swinging, like he's just swinging, trying to fight anybody because he's worried and stuff like that. But yeah,
She didn't give him
Wow, good
refills.
yeah,
earlier. He just
that's
took
what I
his
do when people don't give me
opportunity.
water. Yeah,
Yeah.
Should
I've been waiting all
DM
night.
George and ask him about that if that was in the script.
Yeah,
Indy punches waitress specifically, and
that has to be in here. It's a
he's like,
dark
I guess
movie,
I gotta
Steven.
film it then, yeah.
Steven
That was
has
actually
like
that was actually his ex-wife that he had in the movie. It's part of his breakup situation.
Yeah.
Okay, here you go.
Not a
Punch
stunt
her right in
double
the
either.
face.
Like just clocked her one.
I just imagine Steven like reads the script and he like hands back to George like, yeah, it's all good except like this, just like this moment here, and then George looks down, it's like circled, highlighted in red, like Indy punches woman. He's like, yeah, what's the issue? I just don't. Why is Indy needs to punch him?
He's
It's
like,
an
make sure I
allegory.
wanna set that date too. I wanna see it.
Yeah. Name her Carolyn as well. She doesn't need a character. She's a waitress, George. But all right. Yeah.
Like
Anything else?
5 takes to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else to shout before some trivia?
When I was on the IMDb, I just going through the different photos. I found this photo, and like I remember the scene, but just initially, I was like, "What scene is this?" Like I think I don't have the R-rated version of this movie, but it's very spicy. But
I don't think they're having sex after the volcano moment. That might have been a bit.
it's just the faces, locking eyes.
yeah.
very
Look at
sweaty.
that shoulder, though. I mean, Jesus Christ.
shoulder.
Yeah.
You can see the back muscle too. Holy
Oh
shit.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and I will say, one, this is where at one point, this is where you got Stud Harrison Ford when he has to roll Willie up. Oh my God, his arms are just juiced
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
looking good. But we get one of my favorite things here. I say this in comic movies all the time. We get the ratted, bad, like tearing up looking Indiana Jones costume because you got his back is blood, so his classic shirt has blood on the back, and then he's missing one sleeve. So again, as always, I love the hero aesthetic when they're messed up, and we got that on when he's on the bridge where this house completely fine, this house ripped, he's bleeding from it. So big fan of that. And I like when they pull her up that her face is like they put like some red like singed makeup on her because she was like obviously you'd probably be a lot more burnt, but I appreciated that she wasn't just like looking completely normal. She looked like she'd been through a little hot.
Just looking like Two-Face. He brings her up. Jesus, oh God.
Get back down.
You should go back to you should go to Mississippi. That's why it's a prequel. He goes right back to Marion like, oh, your face isn't burned up. But all right, let's take our last ad break. We'll do some trivia, final thoughts, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So let me pull it up. So I think I hit a few of them here, but not as many. Let's see. For the bug chamber sequence scene, which, man, they went bugs heavy on that. Kate Capshaw was really covered with over 2,000 insects. She took sedatives prior to the scene to get over initial fear and claimed they definitely worked. So classic 80s filmmaking. What we can do? I'm just going to pop some fucking drugs to get through the scene. But yeah, they put... And... Speaking of like to Marianne to this, they do put Willie through a lot between like all the snakes, the fire, the bugs. Like this character has a lot of trauma. No wonder why she's not coming on any more adventures. But Dr. Nana Yakara, cast as the Indian village shaman, did not speak a word of English. He delivered his lines by mimicking Steven Spielberg, who was prompting him off camera. The pauses in the dialogue were not for dramatic effect. Rather, he was wording his next line. So if you thought that,
I love that.
just somewhere Steven just... So that's what you got there.
Maybe
for
that's
key
why in the first movie they got Alfred Molina to do that character because
Yes.
grabbing some native guy who doesn't have like the English language or the bilingualness could be difficult.
He's like, George, I can't keep doing this. Keep making these people speak English or language I can't communicate them with. Ki Kwan's film debut, we got the introducing. It was an open casting call that was put into elementary schools to find a young Asian actor to play Short Round. Kwan arrived with his brother, not to audition, but merely to provide moral support. He caught the casting director's attention because he spent the entire time with his brother auditioning, telling him what to do and what not to do. Spielberg liked his personality, so him and Harrison Ford improvised a scene where Short Round accuses Indy of cheating during a card game. Kwan won the role over 6,000 auditions. So it's kind of fun that scene he auditioned for the card scene. They put that in the movie of the you're cheating and then everything. Fun scene, but man, I hope him and his brother are all good, because
His brother doesn't have an Oscar, I bet.
Yeah, his brother got no Oscar. He came there and he came to audition. His brother got it, Here we go again. Harrison Ford suffered a herniated disc in the back of the scene where he was attacked in his bedroom by the thug, causing production to be shut down for a while. Ford was flown to Los Angeles for spinal surgery. A large portion of Ford's work in the fights and chases in Templeton were actually performed by stuntman Vic Armstrong. Normally, special care needs to be taken to hide stuntman's face from the camera, but this provided largely unnecessary since Armstrong bore an uncanny resemblance to Ford at the time, both in face and body dimensions. I like they say at the time. I get it because they said body dimensions, but it's like, what, a year later did he not look like Harrison Ford? But yeah,
What's
so
the
a lot
name
of
the
Vic
stunt double?
Armstrong. Fake name for sure. That's a Hollywood name. But no, yeah. So yeah, apparently Temple Dune didn't do much because the guy had to get fucking surgery on his back because Harrison Ford just cannot not get hurt during a film.
When I was watching that scene, I was actually thinking like how real like the physicality looked in that sequence. So it makes sense. He actually got a herniated disc.
One shot, not that he got the herniated disc from this probably, but the shot I really like when he was getting whipped. I love that they had the candles, and when he got whipped the first time, he like let out that pain exhaust and like blew out the candles. Very fun, like positioning of the shot there. So, let's see. There was a scene involving Kate Capshaw with a rather large snake that had to be cut. As Capshaw was having panic attacks at the very prospect of it, Spielberg jokingly says the only reason Kate married him was later was because he allowed that scene to be cut. So, but apparently there was like another scene that had to do with the snake, and she was not wanting to do it, and he cut it. And yeah, now
Did they
and they've
marry?
been, yeah, they've been married. Him and Willie been married ever since, still together to this day. So, all worked out. Let's see. So, during production, the film was starting to go way over budget. Spielberg went to the writers and asked them to make changes to the script in order to save money. They removed one page from the script that saved them $1 million. It was planned as an air chase scene using vintage biplanes. The scene was removed, but then later incorporated into Indy 3. And that's why you need writers, even during the filming of a movie, But,
That was one page.
they removed one page. Yeah,
A
but
one-page
it's-
scene with
Double-sided.
double-sided. One page, $1 million.
Yeah, but it was an airplane chase sequence, right? So that's why.
Is this like 8.5 by 11, like size 6 font? What are we talking about here? How much?
I don't
did they,
know.
like,
It's
squeeze in
a
there?
plane
Double-spaced
sequence in
Taylor.
the 80s.
Yeah, the choreography, I don't know if that's in the script. But.
Just to get it, and this is not like CGI where it's just some guy at his computer like, oh, I can whip that up. It's like, no, you gotta get the planes, you gotta get the drivers and stuff like that. But again, Hollywood, you gotta pay the writers because you can't do that stuff anymore. You can't save that script now if you got no writers.
I don't think we should, make it seem like animators. Oh yeah, I'll just whip that up real quick. You make it sound like that's super easy to do too.
No, of course not. No, but I'm just saying that like
Yeah, just give me 10 minutes. I'll make a little plane chase.
That'll be $1 million though.
in the 80s, I'm just saying you just couldn't do that. It was either you got to
Yeah.
do the scene or no scene. Nowadays, you could like, we could green screen, we can do some things. But of course, animators, if they're given time, very talented people. The film, this is kind of funny, some very episode 6 Star Wars stuff going on here. The film's original title was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Death, which was changed because it sounded too foreboding. It was retained as a film in German, though. Title was Indiana Jones and the Der Tempel der Todes. So I don't know if that's what it says.
Toten.
Yeah.
You got a translation on that? Or?
I'm wondering if there is like a
God,
Revenge of the way there was like a Revenge of the Sith poster made. I'm wondering if there is like an Indiana Jones Temple of Death poster out there because Germany like kept the title.
in
and
German,
stuff.
like in German, it was Temple of Death still. is
Yeah,
what
they
you're saying?
kept it
Okay.
Temple of Death and stuff like that.
Germans do love death, so that makes sense.
Well,
doesn't?
not anymore. They've gone past it, But yeah. Anyway, so I talked a little bit about this. So this is a shortened version, but George later admitted he made it darker than he intended. Part of the reason was being that he and Spielberg both were going through a breakup at the time, and he was in not a good mood. Spielberg also admitted that although he agreed with Lucas' idea of the darker tone, he felt uncomfortable with certain scenes while filming them and would attempt to inject some humorous elements into those scenes, try and line them up. For example, the scene where Indy is fighting the thuggy chief guard with a hammer, and the guard takes the hammer away, tosses it aside, only to have on the land bystander hit him in the head, knocking him with a comedical thud. That was a prime example of lighting it up. And I still also wonder too if I'm sure there was a dinner scene, but I feel like the reactions of like Willie and Short Round during that is like another they're always like, oh, and like they're making funny faces. So again, even George regretted making it as dark as he did, but they went with it. So there you go.
Temple des Toads.
That is a
Toads.
weird.
I did a better pronunciation than that. Fuck off. I didn't
Temple
just
of
say
Toads.
toes. Yeah.
Temple of Toads.
That reminded me of something that in that I think it's right before they get on the bridge. Yeah, it must be right before they're getting on the bridge. We kind of have like that callback shot of there's now two guys with the swords and they're spinning the swords around.
Yeah.
And he goes to go for his gun. His gun's not there. So I mean, I guess George Lucas didn't write that original joke in that first movie, but do you think that was in the script for the second one? This
Yeah.
callback to a thing that he didn't write, or do you think that was they just figured in that scene it was right to do? I mean, I don't think they were sick in that, and they're like, okay, let's do
Every
it again. Anytime we get
Again,
sick.
except Steven.
Yeah. Yes. No.
I like
they
that
were
it
all.
is something different too. Like his gun's not
Yeah.
actually there, and then he just ends up running away. But
Yeah, I think they wrote it with that intention probably in this one because it was just so placed well and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think everyone was eating SpaghettiOs for Temple of Doom probably, for the first time. But
yeah, he would bring just a huge vat, just a barrel full of SpaghettiOs for everyone to eat.
that's what the lava is, just hot SpaghettiOs just down there. Hey, it burns, man. Some of those micro ones, I burned my
yeah.
tongue a few amount of times in there.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hot as that lava. I'm looking like
the cheek.
Willie at the end. Yeah, and then this movie was the number 2 movie in 1984, making I'll round up 80 million. So it made about like 12 million more than the first one. It was beat by 40 million with Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters came out that year, and that's what took the crown that year. So other movies was like Gremlins came out that year. That was third. Footloose, Police Academy, Beverly Hills Cop, Karate Kid. 84 actually had like a lot of huge Purple Rain, like a lot of huge things that would become franchises. So big year for the movies, but.
Crazy.
Any final thoughts there, Mr. Muss?
No, not really. I don't know. I don't know why this one. Well, I know why. There's a couple characters that didn't work as well for me, but I guess that there was also maybe just a lack of some of variety in some of the locations, and maybe it feels like less of a journey, and instead feels like there's kind of just two locations that we're in. I know that's not exactly true, but it kind of feels that way to me. So it just feels a bit smaller scale, and yeah, I really like the Egyptian. I guess iconography in the first one, as well as that first temple is very iconic, that mossy rocky area, and this one just feels a bit more drab in comparison to that, but still, yeah, once again, still decent, well-made movie, but I don't think this is one I'll be revisiting very much.
Mr. Field.
Yeah, this is, like I said earlier, this is for me very much up there where Raiders of the Lost Ark is. I would give this a 10 out of 10 because it's such a... They had so many new things to this that just changed it up from that first one, but it has so many familiar components to it that you love Indiana Jones, but they've changed it up, made it different, but in such a great way. So this is always going to be something that I will revisit in the future. These two are definitely my favorite of the Indiana Jones. So I just think that this is something that will easily be in that rewatch of twice, maybe 3 times a year, along with Raiders, because I usually do both of them back to back, and then I kind of maybe I saunter off, and when I get to those other ones, but,
Saunter off in his own
saunter
house
off.
mid-movie.
With,
I'm done with this.
Yeah, I'm out.
Sorry, quick question. Like, with this technically being a prequel, like, do you watch this first and then?
No, I
Raiders?
do Raiders first. And then I usually do this one after, but
I've never done that actually. I should one time on a rewatch to the chronological order.
I get that there's the dates and stuff involved, but I really don't see either or being before or after the other. I watch them. It's they're just two adventures in the universe of Indiana Jones.
Definitely.
So yeah, but no, this movie's just fantastic. I love it so much.
You giving a rating there, Taylor, or no rating on this one?
I did 10 out of 10.
I didn't hear it. I'm the same, 10 out of 10. It's one case that I think I do think Raiders is a better movie. It's the better versus favorite sort of dynamic, right? But that's where for my favorite, this is the one as right now. Who knows what happens with the fifth and with the third one. Fourth, we're not going to go there. Well, you know my thoughts on that one. We've talked about a newscast. But it's just such a good time. I feel like this is, for me, the most rewatchable one. Has that breakdown pace, but I think it works well. Some of the most funniest stuff. Again, short round. They should have capitalized and done more there. He should have been in every single one going forward. Obviously, now we see Ki Kwan. He should have been acting for a long time now, but still, just... like I said, if you take that character out, maybe it would go down a lot more than me. But it's just it's such a fun thing to watch. And plus, Harrison Ford is still great, and I like most of Willie's humor as a kind of on purpose and annoying character. Not that I like her more than Marion, but I like the humor going on. So, Kirk and Patzer.
Yeah. I think I'll just be boring. I'm gonna drop another 10 here. I think there's definitely aspects that I might say I like less in this movie versus something like Raiders, but when I think of the characters like Short Round, and like Willie's usage, yeah, she can be an annoying character, but I still think that she really fits in that dynamic. Harrison is just phenomenal as he always is with this character. So I loved all those aspects, and yeah, just the darkness of the movie is something that I've gone from fearing to just really appreciating. Just the inclusion of it. The set pieces look really great, and yeah, I think it's just a really solid Indiana Jones adventure. You guys were talking about the chronological order. I've never done that. I feel like, to Taylor's point, I've always just kind of seen them like either on their own, where you can watch them in any order, but I watch them in the years that they came out in that order. I feel like Last Crusade is a very good finale to the trilogy. I always call it a trilogy, even though there's technically 4 movies out, almost 5, but yeah, no, I'll save a lot of those thoughts for when we get to that movie. But yeah, I think Temple of Doom is really great, very different from Raiders, but yeah, still really well made film.
Well, I feel like even though there's 3 years between this, and I can't remember, someone quickly look up when does Last Crusade come up, but I feel like just because those are within a shorter amount of time, that does feel like like it's the trilogy, where like 4 and now 5 they're spaced out. They feel like little add-ons, like almost epilogues in a sense. I know they are their own movies, but it feels very much like when you talk about the trilogy, like it's not. Yes, lots of people don't like the 4th one, but I just feel like that's just like encapsulated in a certain way. 1989. So what, you had 3 years and then you had 5 years in between them. So yeah, but within a decade, right? Within the 10 years, you got all 3 Indiana Jones, and then the next one took 19 years to get.
Yeah,
So
5 years actually seems like a lot. I would have thought they'd be trying to pump these things out quicker, but
yeah. But I wonder too if that was at the time. Well, so that's 84. So
when did the last Star Wars come out, or like
that's
episode 6?
Yeah, so I was trying to think, because Star Wars happens. God, someone get me the dates. Cause
It's like 77 or 79 was the first one, right?
Yeah, it's 78 for the first one. Yeah, when's Return of the Jedi? Because he would have been busy. I think it's is it Return of the Jedi is not 79?
83.
Thank you. So, and this was 84. So I guess Star Wars was done before this one came out. So there you go. Huh. Taylor, New Hope came out 78. Return of the Jedi is 79.
It's clicking in, yeah.
79.
They skipped Empire. They skipped Empire.
Empire was
like George,
80.
he released it after. Well, this is actually in between the two. It's a prequel. But yeah, no, I guess he was done with the Return. He was done with Star Wars at that point. So yeah, I guess who knows? Maybe I'll look in the trivia. Maybe they were kind of like, yeah, I don't know if we want to do a third one. Who knows? But that's what we'll be talking about soon for the main feed next week. But for the patrons, we'll be getting it early, so look out for that. But yeah, we'll be talking about that one and then Indy 4 soon. So thank you very much for tuning in and listening. We promise you it'll not be a